Hello and welcome to the Dead Air Dudes. I'm Izzy.
Raka, hello, one and all, and welcome back to another stunning and informative, thought-provoking episode of our true crime series. And, sir, what is on the docket for today's discussion?
For Jubilee Part 13, it is Randy Stephen Kraft, better known as the Scorecard Killer.
That is our lucky 13.
Some might call him the Freeway Killer, but there's a whole theory and a whole thing about that. And some also called him the Southern California Strangler. He is responsible from anywhere from 16 to 67, even up to 30 murders in early, mid to late 70s to the early 80s. Okay. Now, his modus operandi is strangulation, drugs, and alcohol. Meaning he would inebriate the victims via alcohol and or drugs, and then he would strangle them or bludgeon them with objects and throw them out of his car. Now, we're going to quickly get into his upbringing and, take it away, Rocco.
Okay, so born in March 1945, Randy was, I think, the only boy. He had all girl siblings. Apparently, his father was kind of a Puritan workforce worker kind of guy, and mother worked as a seamstress. Now, from all accounts, there was nothing too terrible in his childhood, except the fact that dad was a little estranged to him. And accounts were that he preferred to hang out, talk to, or converse with his daughters as opposed to him. I don't know how much that's true and how much that plays into anything, especially when we get into more details of his habits.
Right.
So I want to pause now and just let everybody know we should do this always from the beginning. Thank you for liking and subscribing for our channel and on making everything possible for us to continue with this and many other of our endeavors. Also, due to the graphic nature of what we're going to delve into, you should be warned, should you want to continue listening, it's going to get nasty, and it's going to get grimy, it's going to get visceral. So just get that first before you continue to enter through our doors.
Pretty much. So, Daily Dude Nation, get ready, strap yourselves in, and let us continue.
Okay, so again, a relatively uneventful childhood. There wasn't bedwetting, there wasn't torture of animals, there wasn't everything. And he was a very good student.
He was a very good student.
A very bright student. He didn't show any kind of behavior issues, reprimand-worthy issues, nothing that is remarkable. In fact, the only thing remarkable is that he was a very good student. And then I believe he now, in his early years, did he enlist?
Well, I mean, even before that, he was, as a good student, he had a keen interest in politics. So he he had aspirations of becoming a U.S. Senator. He was a staunch Republican, nothing to say about that, and supposedly his close friends, he had two close friends, and in school, he founded a Westminster World Affairs Club. Say that 3 times. Jeez. At Westminster High, he was regarded as a pleasant, bright student who regularly achieved A grades. Now, at this point, and it's only an issue because later on, he only killed men and he was a homosexual. Now, at this point, he supposedly dated, girls. But at the same time, classmates and teachers suspected that he was homosexual. Now, doesn't matter. I mean, a circular, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah. Now, to frame this, we're talking about in the mid 50s to early 60s.
oh yeah,
Now, it is in a more liberal California, but it is still not completely accepted in, well, everywhere, unfortunately, that he was a homosexual or he was tending towards that way and had it not fully explored.
oh no, it was fully kept a secret. He purposely, until
Yeah.
college, where he really went all
Yeah,
out.
unfortunately, but understandably so during the climate of the times. So as you alluded to, he graduated 10th out of 390 pupils,
Yep.
which is, a remarkable top 5%. Sorry, doing some quick math. In his class. But he moves on though.
And here's where, like you mentioned before, he joins the ROTC in college. And he also took part in demonstrations in favor of America entering the Vietnam War. Okay. He campaigned fervently for the right-wing presidential candidate in 1964. But as soon as he, I guess, comes out, he shifts to the left. And then he starts working as a part-time bartender at a gay bar.
Yeah, it's here where he would explore the gay bar scene, as well as purported some paid for hire services.
Yeah, gigolos. Yeah, he would cruise. I have it somewhere. The specific bar that do believe in Laguna Beach, and also in Huntington, and he used to have casual sex with hustlers. But that's even more so after he was already out and about. Now he also started becoming fond of bondage. Okay, his
Well,
roommate.
yeah. Now this was because of one of his first boyfriends.
Yes.
He attributed to, I forget his name, but he attributed to one of his first boyfriends to, and they believe they got a house together, an apartment together, some kind of living arrangement. But he was introduced to bondage, and I guess for a more, well, I'll say what it is, rough play, rough sex. So there is some S&M, there's some bondage, there's some pain levels that are reached, there's the mix of sex and violence. And so there's some roots planted here about that intertwines into his methods of killing in the future.
Yeah.
And as gory as things can get, I guess things get too far.
Right. Now, he also suffered from stomach issues, and he suffered from migraines. So he frequently took Valium, which in turn he would eventually start using those kinds of drugs to incapacitate the victims before he did what he had to do. His roommate at the time would comment how he would disappear upon hours at a time, a few times a week, and he always would return in odd hours in the nighttime. So he was he would take so many drugs that he would even take them, with like in the middle of the class, in classes and everything. Now there in '66, he moved out, and then this is where he got an apartment with a friend, and he was spending most of the majority of the time in gay bars. And here is where I guess maybe, he starts getting into some trouble. Okay. He was arrested for propositioning
Lewd conduct.
another undercover police officer. He was let go without a warning. And here is where he starts faltering his grades. He was, his graduating class graduated. He was missing, and he had to repeat a class. Okay. He earned his bachelor in economics several months later. All right. Now, he enlisted in the Air Force. Okay. He was in the Air Force. He was sent to Edwards Air Force Base to supervise the painting of test planes. Okay. And 1969, he finally admitted he was gay, which came as a huge surprise to his family. And after his admission, he was discharged from the Air Force on medical grounds, quote unquote, and went back to bartending. Okay.
No, but there were some mixed accounts. Some say that his family suspected all along.
Well,
others say that it was a big because I don't know if this big reveal to his family jump started certain things. Because now you could feel ashamed, you could feel distance, and he was more distant thereafter. He could feel not accepted. I mean, there's a bevy of emotions that can be joined with this. So I don't think we should glaze right over it too quickly. However, it is around this time, we're talking now about 1969, where he does have the discharge, you said.
Yeah.
He announced to his supervisors in the Air Force his sexuality. And he claims he ties that into this discharge and fought very hard to get the official title of his discharge changed. And he suspected it was because of his coming out that they had discharged him.
Yeah. Now, they also claim a friend claims, in a letter, he said he wrote a letter to a friend in which stated that when he came out, his father went into a rage and his mother was more reasonable and understanding that she knew. Again, who knows? We don't know exactly what's going on as far as how that transpired. And like you said, he would distance himself. And here we get into his first sexual assault. And then everything goes downhill from here that we know of. In March 1970, he encounters a 13-year-old Westminster youth named Joseph Gerald Fancher at Huntington Beach.
13 years old.
13 years old. So yeah, now little commentary here. There has to be more to this. You don't just wake up one day, oh, by the way, I'm gay all of a sudden, and just, this had to be going on before. This had to be freaking, something going on. You don't just go and just sexually molest 13-year-old boy all of a sudden when you're what? At this point, he's what? 25 something years old?
Yeah.
Correct? I mean, there's more to it, that we don't know. And there had to be some underlying issues, obviously. He invited the youth to accompany him to the apartment on the promise that Fancher could live with him. Wow. He agreed. He was drugged and assaulted.
How was he caught is, I think, how everything got unraveled.
Do tell.
So, the exact dates, I just had it, and then, anyway, he was, I think, followed by a police car, and he was swerving from lane to lane. And then they pulled him over and said, hey, buddy, you okay? And he was combination of drunk, high, completely out of his senses, really off.
He was gored, whacked out. He was whacked.
totally whacked out. But they look at the passenger side, and there's somebody dead.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have his senses. He was responsive. He looked hurt. Then they went to investigate further, and he was dead.
Yeah.
And he had marks on him. I believe some strangulation marks, and then
Strangled.
fond of burning victims with the cigarette lighter in the car.
Yeah, Terry Gambrill.
And so further investigation to his car. So at this point now, they cuff him, they bag him, they put him in the back of the car because there's a dead body of a male in the passenger side. They bring him to the car. He is whacked out of his mind. He is on a trip. They search the car, and here is how the name sticks. They find in the trunk papers, this, that, a whole bunch of other weird stuff. But the most important thing they find is this paper with a list of names. And hence the name Scorecard. Now, exactly how many? Was this where it's 67 or something like that?
Yeah.
67 names were on it. And these weren't all names. It wasn't John Smith, Joe Todd, Todd Sweeney. Some had code names, some had nicknames. Puppy dog, junkyard killer.
Yeah, like you would have like Wilmington, This happened in, I guess he found him in Wilmington. Hoff of Head, another example, and you would get random things like that, and 76, quote unquote, Portland Eck, and on and on and on and on. It was pretty effed up, man. There's your typical serial killer MO that you need to make it a statement. You want people to know. You want people to see what he's doing.
And this is where forensics came in and played a big role, because they would find DNA, hair, and this is the early years of all that, where they would find ties, tons of photographs, but ties to a lot of individuals which were deemed missing.
Yeah.
And if bodies were uncovered, they would now relate. He had a picture of them. When they would investigate these individual deaths, they would find out either he was seen talking to them, a bartender remembered leaving with him, he would pick them up on the beach, he would pick up loners, drifters, all men, all young men, some of which were not even, like you said, 13 years old, some were not even 18 years old. He would lure them with...
It didn't matter. They were all young. He did like them very young.
Yeah. So this cracked the whole thing open. And as they were pairing up victim after victim with names on the scorecard and with what he claims to be circumstantial evidence, but it seemed pretty hardcore as far as
he recorded
their effects in his house.
Single murder he recorded. Every single murder. This is akin to Leonard Lake and Ing, when Leonard Lake had recorded every single, or had all the IDs of all the victims in a freaking in a bucket.
Yeah, in a bucket and kind of his collector trophy case. So this is where now the entanglement with other serial killers in California at this time in the 70s, which is by itself a PhD paper waiting to be written.
Yeah.
As far as late 60s into 80s.
What?
This is serial killer
know about. This is the ones that we know about, that we don't even know how many more that were never discovered, never found out. I mean, because
when you
this point,
count the Hillside Strangler, the Zodiac Killer, the other guy, the dating game guy, the other killer, the Night Stalker. This is all California, and there's some overlapping MOs. There's some overlapping trends in each killings that one must wonder if they were part of some master cult.
Well, yeah. Well, there was
This
another.
is before the internet, but if they were coordinating and corresponding with each other somehow,
There's
because
another freeway
it's
killer.
just the
Yeah,
freeway killer. And
there's another
so,
freeway
are
killer
these all one person? Is
that
this a gang of people? A network of serial killers? Crazy, crazy,
is
bizarre
it's
stuff. So as things
insane.
unravel, it's disheartening how many different victims would pop up, to the point that anywhere between 20 some 23, 24, and 67, or even more, were victims of being drugged, lured into his home, drunk, then tortured, sexually molested, raped, tortured again, and then eventually death and dismemberment.
Yeah, and thrown away and on or near freeways. Thus, he got that name. Now, the other freeway killer, which is I guess the literal freeway killer, had a different MMO where he would shoot his victims in the temple, and he never tortured any of his victims.
Well,
While
it sounds
Kraft,
like for completion's sake, we're going to have to touch upon it.
while Kraft, yes, he did he tortured and he had his fun and everything else. Now, when he was convicted and everything, he had received 16 murder charges, 9 counts of sexual mutilation, 11 counts of sodomy, and 3 counts of robbery. The following year, the prosecution added 21 additional murders to the charges. With all the forensic evidence they found, including, like I said, all the pictures, fibers on the rugs, the notebook that had the scorecard written in freaking code. Of course, he was found
Ode.
guilty. He was found guilty of all charges and sentenced to death, where he still awaits to this day on death row. Which
70 photos of dead and unconscious men just in his trunk.
So, I mean, now there's also rumors that he had an accomplice. He had an accomplice who would have participated in at least some of the murders, because if you think about it, once you have, depending on the size of the person and a person's incapacitated, it's a moving around a dead body. He wasn't really considered to be a big individual to have the kind of strength to do. Not to mention, we all knew he got high on his own supply as well. So
he's of slight build, but he did receive military training.
Yeah.
So he had probably some training in how to manipulate large weights, and there had to be, if somebody put up a fight, he obviously, with some military training versus less, and with a lot of his victims being younger, he might be able to overpower them, subdue them. But you did bring up a good point about he's not a hulking individual.
How do you move?
Yeah, how do you?
I'm fine. You can move a 15-year-old kid. Okay, fine. But a 29-year-old man, a 29-year-old man, 26, 24, 17, 18, 20, 15, 20, 20, 19, 24, 17, 19, 23, 25, 18, on and on and on. I mean,
Do you know what's really disparaging, though, is that if he did not move them and he did have help, A, which sicko would help him? And B, if it was like a gang of thugs having their way with somebody, where's the evidence of others?
This is a theory. It's not my theory. It's a theory that I've seen on the internet.
No, it's understandable, because there are holes in the theory that he was the sole person to doing this, if you look at his build. But if I remember back, for a shameless plug, to the butcher of, I was going to say Baghdad, I'm sorry, the butcher of Alaska.
The butcher baker.
He also was not, Butcher Baker was also not an individual of, Hulkamania stature, where he can throw these victims over his shoulder and bury them. He was military trained. He
Yes.
was a sharpshooter. He was an excellent hunter. But unless he shoots them, kills them, and then buries them where they die. But
Which,
at the same point, he overpowers these women to the point that he can handcuff them and then transport them to a vehicle or to a plane. So, I mean, that's a lot of. I understand. Gun to your head motivates a lot of people. But this guy was totally different. Apparently, he smooths you, lure you in, get you drugged up, get you drinking. But you're right. You're a bigger individual than me, and then I get you all liquored up. You're dead weight. How you moving dead weight? I'm sorry, no pun intended. How you moving dead weight before you're actually dead? You ever anybody out there who's ever, and I know you're out there, whoever helped a drunk friend get out of the bar into your car, it's parked 3 blocks down, you understand. You almost want to lean them up on the lamppost and be like, "I'll be right back. Stay right here."
I mean, you're not gonna go anywhere. Now, the one thing that gets me also, all these pictures, okay? Why? All the pictures of the dead victims that were processed. You mean to tell me they didn't go to the cops? I get it, one, twice. Oh, it could be bullshit. But what is it? 70 pictures?
70 plus.
I mean, it, I don't know, man.
He liked it rough, and it got to a point where rough got very rough. But I understand if something went too far one time, 2 times. But this became habitual to the point that I'm assuming, he didn't have a fantasy fulfilled unless it went all the way. Again, that's I don't think too big of a leap for me, but it does kind of complete the circle.
Yeah, I mean.
So in the great state of California and its supreme justice system, sarcasm, Mother Flower is still on death row, and he maintains his innocence to today. That everything is circumstantial, and it isn't him. Wow. Dude, brother, everything's pointing to you, man. You got pictures, you got a dead guy inside on your shotgun, city shotgun, you got copious amounts of drugs and alcohol, you got ties to all these victims. If somebody's trying to frame you once, twice, frame you for 70 murders, I don't know, man. I don't know. There's not even smoke with fire. The whole goddamn house is on fire.
That wasn't me.
So there now completes the unfortunate story of the scorecard killer and how he was caught. Which last commentary that we'll make is, for surviving as long as he did, being a predator, what a buffoon.
Yeah.
I mean, what's that line? Oh, deal crack, but don't get high on your own supply. You're gonna do this. You're probably on your way to unload the body. The hell? Why are you high as a kite, man?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, 20
screwed up.
of the estimated 67 victims remain unrecovered and unidentified, and that sucks.
Yeah.
The family members of those victims won't get there.
I mean, it's sad to begin with how bodies would turn up on the side of the road, maybe in some desert patch, and sometimes in suitcases or in the water. But it's such a blatant disregard. Like, yeah, they won't find me. I'm just gonna throw his body on the side of the of the shoulder of the road, interstates and whatnot. I mean, there's some brashness involved there. And of course, we're dealing with serial killers. They have their logical sequencing for one thing and completely detached for other things.
I mean, he would throw them out while going 50 miles an hour on the freeway, throw the bodies out the door.
Yeah. And if you think about it, from the big cars,
Wrong, you got to do that. You got to be, by the way.
and back then, there's no Toyota Civic, Honda Civic, and Corolla. Every car was a big boat.
Yeah.
Big old American cars. Yeah, interesting. Well, I guess that kind of ties up our scorecard killer. Yet another one of the famed 70s serial killers, 80s serial killers, especially on the left coast. Don't worry, not to disparage you guys. The East Coast got plenty.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're just trying to.
We're gonna head back here to the East Coast, and we got our own. I mean, Son of Sam and whatnot. But yeah. I guess any finishing thoughts there?
No, it's just. I guess in comparison to the ones that we've been doing so far, it's not as grotesque the murders, I suppose, but still, pretty damn messed up, man. I mean, and I think there's more to the story. Not that it matters. I mean, because a piece of shit is a piece of shit is a piece of shit. But there's more to the story that we might never know. How just one day it just kind of flicked the switch. Don't buy it. And all of a sudden he just starts killing people. I don't know. You? Any final thoughts?
I suspect since the most unremarkable of upbringing and lack of a traumatic incident, nor was there any kind of psychological evaluation ever deemed that he was a sociopath. I think whoever introduced him to some rough play, he liked it, went too far, liked it even more. And just like an addict with a fix, again, this is no excuse. I'm just thinking in his profile. I think he got addicted to it, and just like any addict, without any help, getting it was never the same unless it ended this way, every time. And his fix couldn't be satiated. He just kept going. And you can see it like a disregard. It's like somebody's a chain smoker. Don't disregard where the cigarette butt goes.
Damn, that's rough. That's way harsh.
Thanks for joining us in this segment of the Scorecard Killer in our continuing true crime series and subheading serial killers. Again, catch us. We just recently did a paranormal investigation testing the Rando Nautical app. And we have more in line, especially hitting all things Hollywood, getting back to some comics and movies as things kind of open up in the world. And
slowly but surely, everything's opening up. And yeah, we will be there to bring it to you.
Remember, thank you to like and subscribe. Smash that button. Thanks all for making us the dead air dudes as we slash through the airwaves.
Take care, guys. I'm Izzy.
I'm Raka. Save the whales.
Peace out.